This is our third day of our online seminars, and on the occasion of very auspicious events that took place on 14th, 15th, and today we are on the 16th of October. The 16th of October, it's a very important day as well for Guru Sahib's movement, because this is on the day that he has had the very massive conversion event in Chandrapur on this very day in 1956. And as we know that he has planned conversions all over the places, in Bombay, in Madras, in Agra. But we know that due to his untimely death, these events couldn't take place. But we can imagine, we can get a glimpse of things to come when we look at this event in Chandrapur as to how the things would have unfolded all over the places. So today, I wish you the Dhammadiksha Day, which took place in Chandrapur. Today we have a very special friend, Dr. Obed Manvatkar, and some of you know him already. But for those who don't know him, I would like to put a word of introduction. He's currently working as an adjunct professor, world religions and cultures in North Park University in Chicago, in United States. This is his professional as well as his, achievements. There are a lot of achievements in his pockets. But one of the remarkable things about Obed is his undying, I would say, unwavering mind to serve the community in whatever way he can. He's deep into Christianity. He's deep into the religious studies, Buddhism, Hinduism. He lectures on them. He lectures on Jyotiba Phule, on Baba Saheb Ambedkar, in whatever platforms that he finds. And so his commitment is something unquestionable, something unwavering. And we thought that this topic of Ambedkar and Christianity has to be discussed and in the forums on the occasion of conversion. So I think it's a great pleasure to invite Brother Obed. Obed, brother, welcome to this webinar. And I know it must be very late for you there, but thank you so much for taking time. And you were struggling with some technical issues of computer. I cannot just, it always happens. So we don't don't do it to take them lightly. And I now hand it over to you, Obed, for your presentation, brother.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bhau Mangesh, and greetings to all, and wish you everyone, the viewers who are watching me. I wish you all a very, 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 very happy Conversion Day, the Emancipation Day, and uh, uh, so Bhai Mangesh has already given my introduction about yes, my scholarship is on Phule and Ambedkar and my heroes, and Baba Saheb is my hero. And yes, before I begin to speak and to say something, so to viewers, I know this is going live stream, and few people, few may miss it at the beginning part, but it's being recorded, so you can watch it on YouTube channel. And um, so to begin with, I want to let you all know that this presentation is not about promoting Christendom. I'm not going to convert you into Christianity, and neither I want to demean Buddhism. On the contrary, I am talking about my hero, your hero, our hero, Baba Saheb, and I I want to mention that Christendom is a past. It is not coming anymore, and it has done a lot of damage to the world. But again, the counterpart to Christendom has been successful, and it has been in a very, very radical shift in everywhere, and we see a lot of things happening to counter that. And Christendom has gone for the past. So again, I'm saying this is not promoting Christendom. And so, of course, there are many things about Baba Sahib which we still, which we all are still unaware of, and I would like to put some shades on it, and some things which, and what the right now the what the norms are being coming up in the community and this new generation after us, uh, like there has been some kind of selective study mindset and all. So see, Baba Sahib is an ocean of thoughts, I say, and this man has this man was brilliant politician, this man was brilliant jurist, brilliant economist, brilliant scholar of various issues, or brilliant sociologist, I could say. This man was also a brilliant scholar of world religions. And this part of Baba Sahib is really like today, which I see, and you may not agree with that. It's okay to disagree. Uh, where this part of Baba Sahib is really lesser known, and people literally don't know how brilliant this man was in very, and how brilliant his criticism was. And I would love to share that how he critiqued the other faiths as a brilliant world religion scholar. Of course, he is not considered because now it's only about political thing, and political parties quote him selectively and to set up their political agenda and something. Religious people, some of my fellow Buddhist brethren, they love to quote him with his Buddhist thoughts and all, appreciate it. But on the contrary, the way he reflected on different religions, this thing is not being taught. And to begin with, I'm sharing my screen to you all, my presentation. I want to also let you know that before I share the screen, that Baba Sahib, uh, uh, when he studied, and to let you know, Christianity and Islam has indigenosity in India. They are indigenous religions, and Christianity has 2,000-year-old history. Islam has 1,500-year-old history. So early Islam and early Christianity began from India, the Indian subcontinent. Uh, Early Islam, Chennamil Perumal was a person who from Kerala who went to Saudi Arabia to meet Prophet Muhammad, and Prophet Muhammad gave him the teachings of Islam, and he embraced Islam by meeting Prophet Muhammad. And then Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad, while meeting Prophet Muhammad, then he was coming back. While coming back to India, he he left this world. But in Kerala, still in his name there is a mosque, Chennamal Perumal Mosque. That is historic mosque. So he brought Islam to India 1,500 years ago, approximately. So Islam is indigenous religion. Christianity is also Indian. It has 2,000 years of history. So here's my presentation. I begin with sharing screen. Here you go. Mm, Slideshow. All right. Okay. So to begin with, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, you can see my screen. So Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, I have introduced him, and his qualification BA, MA, MSc, DSc, BAd, LLD, DLit, barrister at law. And Baba Saheb Ambedkar was a good friend of Christians. There are many Christians. There were many good Christian friends of Baba Saheb who were in his life while he was in his this world, and he was in the civil rights movement of our civil rights movement, anti-caste, casteless civil rights movement, and annihilation of caste, be it annihilation of caste movement, or you can call it civil rights movement, or social justice movement, or a social transformation movement. So Baba Saheb, from 1891 to 1956, it's a whole journey. So to come to 22 vows, it's a whole life journey. And to from 1936 to 1956, from annihilation of caste to 22 vows, is a 20-year journey. So this is whole journey that Baba Saheb is meeting people, reasoning with people, talking with people, having conversations, protest, and leading revolutions, fighting in the courts. He's doing a lot. So this is whole journey. So Baba Saheb Ambedkar went to United States, London for studies and all. So, but in 1938, I'm coming to his views on Christianity, and what his views were of Christianity, what he said about Christianity. In Solapur, in January 5th, on January 5th, 1938, at Solapur, Maharashtra, Baba Saheb spoke in a Christian gathering, and thus he says, it's in Baba Saheb Ambedkar writings and speeches, I'm quoting him on. Baba Saheb talks to Christians from the stage. He's saying, he's giving a speech, he's delivering a speech. He was trying to encourage Christians to be in the politics and to be active in politics. So he did a criticism there, but he began the sentences with this. Thus says Baba Saheb, I have a great impact on my mind of two great personalities, Buddha and Jesus. I want a religion which could teach us to practice equality, fraternity, and liberty. This is Baba Saheb Ambedkar on January 5th, 1930. What was his impact and how was it that we will discuss in this presentation? But I will rush to the second slide. I have already said that Christianity is one of the indigenous religions in India, 2000 years of history. In 52 AD, I'm not talking about British, I'm not talking about American missionaries, I'm not talking about any other Portuguese missionaries. I'm talking about Jesus Christ and his disciple. Jesus Christ, the disciple of Jesus Christ, there were 12 disciples of Jesus Christ. And also, I'm trying to counter this myth. There is a myth ruling that Jesus came to India and he lived in Kashmir and he became a Buddhist monk, and all that is just a myth. Jesus never came to India. Jesus never went outside of 100 miles. He worked in that. But Christianity was born in Asia only. It's an Asian religion. And Jesus, the disciples of Jesus Christ, he had 12 disciples. Jesus Christ himself was born in a segregated agrarian community as a carpenter. And he was known as a son of carpenter. He claimed himself as a shepherd. He talks about farmers. He talks about landless laborers. He talks about laborers. And he was the voice of the poor landless laborers in his times. And that's why he got such a brutal punishment. And he was executed like a criminal on the cross. Because he was being a voice, and religious cohorts with the political power, they crucified him, they lynched him, they brutalized him, they butchered him, and then he was crucified. That was the tremendous merciless death he has faced. So because he comes from the subaltern agrarian community, the labor class. So Jesus Jesus' disciples, they decided that we should go to entire world, to all across all the seven seas and all the world, all the continents, and we should proclaim the teachings of Jesus. In Kerala, 52 AD, his disciple Saint Thomas, Apostle Thomas, came to Kerala, Kraganur, which was Kodungalur at that time. So he comes to Kodungalur. He sees four Brahmins taking Surya Namaskar, and for Nambudri Brahmins, and then he meets them. He gives them the gospel of Jesus. Those four Brahmins embrace Christianity, and then slowly he plants 7 churches in Kerala from 52 AD and all. So it's not just about Brahmins. Even Buddha's first 5 disciples were Brahmins, but later on that Buddha's teaching became a common people's teaching, and Buddha becomes a common people's hero. Till today, Buddha is common people's hero, and so as Jesus is common people's hero, not the elite hero. But of course, elitism is there in every religion. Elites have conquered the priesthood, but the marginalized communities also have the priesthood and things like that. So I don't want to get into deeply. I don't want to start from 52 AD. I just want to give you a hint that Christianity is a 2,000-year-old religion in India. And Thomas planted 7 churches in South India, and then he goes to Tamil Nadu. And in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, he was martyred by Brahmins. He was killed by Brahmin while he was praying. And so that's where his life ended. But the church movement grew. It grew and grew, and there arose a Dravidian Christianity, Dravidian version of Christianity, and Dravidian Christianity merged into Shaivism, which empowered a movement called Lingayatism, Basavanna, and all. So, and and all the anti-caste movement. So this, that Dravidian Christianity is still active, and there is still revolts going on. On the contrary, I'm talking about myself. If I talk about myself, my grandfather worked with Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and he was one of the pioneers, one of the key players in forming Dalit theology. And in Dalit theology, the founder of Dalit theology was Ibn Nirmal. He has one Christian seminary in Bodhwad, Maharashtra, and so being in with Ambedkarite generation, 3 generations, we have served the Ambedkarism, and so I will quote Dalit theologian James Massey. He has crafted a brilliant history, context, and text and whole salvation on the part of Dalit theology. And Dalit theology is being taught in the Christian seminaries, in most of the Christian seminaries. This curriculum is being taught. Why Dalit theology? Because there is an Indian Christian theology, which is a Brahmanical theology, because Brahmins also wrote about Jesus and tried to Brahmanize Jesus Christ. They called it contextualization, but Dalit theology comes in to counter that. And Dalit theology claims that Jesus was never a Brahmin, he was never a yogi, he was never a kind of saintly kind of thing. But in Indian Christian theology, you will find Gandhi, you will find Raja Ram Mohan Roy, you will find Vivekananda, you will find Pendipedi Chinchaya, the Brahminical mind, and M.M. Thomas, the Brahmin, Nambudri Brahmin Christian. There is Sadhu Sundar Singh, a Khatri convert Sikh. So Khatri convert Christian, Khatri Sikh convert Christian. So there are these are the people in Dalit, in Indian Christian theology, which is a Brahmanical theology, Kayastha theology, or Baniya theology, you can call it. But Dalit theology has been a benchmark to counter that, and OBC, the Shudra theology, and that this thing is already in process. Mahatma Jyotiba Phule is one of the OBC theologian. I claim that, and that theology is in process. But anyways, Dalit theology already there in academia. James Massey, one of the finest Dalit theologians of today, he says, he observed, and of course, I want to give you a good news. Baba Saheb Ambedkar is the idea behind Dalit theology. It is Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Okay, So I'm clarifying this because many of the people are unaware of that Christians don't do any civil rights or social justice things. Movement is there. Baba Saheb is inspiring Christians till today. And so Dalit Christian theologian James Massey observes, he says in his book and in his writings, he says Ambedkar probably was the first person who was not a church-going Christian, but yet looked Christianity and its message. This was the reason he used in his writings both directly and indirectly. His illustrations clarifies his beliefs. And let us explore few of the ignored friends of Ambedkar, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and the impact of Christianity upon his life. So, few Christian friends of Ambedkar. His first friend was one of the friend was Reverend James Withrow. I'm sorry, I don't have his picture. I have Baba Sahib's picture here, but Reverend James Withrow, he was the vicar of Saint James. Okay, Christianity has various denominations or sects. You call it just like Buddhism has Mahayana, Hinayana, Tantrayana, Vajrayana, Theravada, and all these sects. Christianity also has Roman Catholics, Protestants, Evangelicals, Baptists, Calvinists, Lutherans. They have Anglicans. They have Methodist. So Baba Sahib was having conversation with all these people. So Reverend James Withrow was one of his best friends, and in Delhi. And St. James Church, which is it is located right in front of 26 Alipur Road house of Baba Sahib Ambedkar in New Delhi. And so there is a 100% possibility that he used to go there to meet James Withrow, have conversations, friendly conversations. And Reverend James recalled that Ambedkar made several visits to him in month of December and January in 1952 and 1953. It was possible for him because his house, 26 Alipur Road, which is now a museum right now, his Delhi house is located very close to the church. Vicar advised him, Vicar means Reverend James, advised him for the alternative proposed prayer book. Baba Sahib insisted to read the 1662 prayer book, which contained around 39 articles of Anglican faith. He used to read it in the Lady Chapel of the church, and sometimes sitting in the car. So basically, when Baba Sahib used to he used to read it while traveling in the car, while going somewhere. So he would read the hymnal book of the Anglican Church. So prayer book and hymnal book, that is a devotion he used to do. This is in 1950s and that era, before embracing Buddhism. Embracing Buddhism is like 1956, but before that he was doing that. So this can be called as one of the impacts, and Reverend James Withrow and one of his closest friends. And of course, second, his friend, I will come to Bishop J. Wascombe Pickett. And man, you see on the screen, Bishop J. Wascombe Pickett and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Bishop J. Wascombe Pickett is one of the finest legendary civil rights heroes who have contributed a lot for annihilation of caste movement. But he is not known. He thoroughly understood the caste system in India. While being from America, coming to India, Bishop is one of the position given in the church. So he was a Methodist missionary, a Methodist church missionary. There is a church on Delhi, on Lodhi Road, located at Lodhi Road in Delhi. And Bishop J. Wascombe Pickett was appointed by the American Methodist organization to be a bishop in India, in New Delhi. Bishop J. Bascom Pickett has written one of the finest book, Road to Delhi. Road to Delhi, you can Google it, you can find it. You can find tremendous conversation with Baba Saheb Ambedkar in that book, his conversations, and a brilliant religious, spiritual, as well as social justice related conversations are there. I am not giving you entire book review here. I'm just trying to highlight his friendship with Baba Saheb Ambedkar. In one of the international bulletin of the Christians, uh, Bishop Pickett, like he was his friend in Delhi, and when Baba Saheb in his last days in 1950s, he switched to Mumbai, and where he took like a decision uh, to reinvent Buddhism, and so in that period, Bishop Pickett also in 1950s also was transferred from Delhi to Mumbai, Mumbai Senate, Mumbai region, and so there also they had conversation. And even after Baba Saheb embraced and reinvented Buddhism, rediscovered Buddhism or resurrected Buddhism, Baba Saheb continued his friendship, and they continued their friendship. And Bishop Pickett, then after that, Baba Saheb's parinirvana happened, Mahaparinirvana happened, and Bishop Pickett was transferred back, means like he retired and he went to United States. His documents are still available in Asbury Theological Seminary in United States. So you can, if someone is there, someone wants to research on him, Asbury Theological Seminary is the best place where you can find all his volumes. Bishop Pickett was a brilliant academician also. So after his retirement from Indian missions, he went to America and he taught as a professor in Asbury Theological Seminary. In Asbury Theological Seminary, he shared his stories with Baba Saheb Ambedkar, the conversations he enjoyed. He loved him like his brother. And Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and in one of the teachings, I want to quote him. Don't troll me, those who are watching me online. I'm not giving you any misinformation. I'm literally giving you what conversations, updates, and a little bit of glance. Bishop Pickett says, and this was printed in the International Bulletin of a Methodist, and so this is an academic material. You can Google it, you can find it. Bishop Pickett says, Ambedkar was born in low caste Hindu family while teaching in seminary. So Bishop Pickett says this: Ambedkar was born in low caste Hindu family, but leaped into prominence after advanced study in England and America. He returned to India with an overpowering desire to free his people from old age long oppression. He traveled across the country holding mass meetings among members of lower caste. He denounced Hindu gods as immoral. He urged his people to renounce Hinduism, which he claimed was the cause of their poverty and social stigma. I was born a Hindu, he shouted, but I will not die a Hindu. This was quoted by Bishop Pickett. This was said, this story is taught. Means like he was saying this while teaching in Asbury Theological Seminary to the Christians, in the Christian seminary. And he recorded in his diary, and now I'm trying to throw a bomb, and please don't try to misunderstand me, but this is what Bishop Pickett claims. Bishop Pickett wrote in his diary that Baba Saheb Ambedkar, after embracing Buddhism, they still met, and Baba Saheb Ambedkar wanted to become Christian even after embracing Buddhism, and he wanted to be baptized in Methodist Church. And Bishop Pickett take was, he said baptism ceremony means there is a ceremony that someone is becoming Christian, there is a ceremony, and that ceremony is public ceremony. Baba Saheb said, like, can I still become a member of your church? Is there any possibility? Bishop Pickett says, I am still praying for you. Okay. And so after that, Baba Saheb left, and Baba Sahib said like, okay, we'll talk later. And like he had to go somewhere. And so after that, there was no conversation. Then after 2 months, Baba Sahib had his Mahaparinirvana. But these were the talks. On the contrary, Bishop Pickett was also good friends with Gandhi, Mr. Gandhi. And Mr. Gandhi and his conversations are also documented in Road to Delhi. And those are so brilliant conversations, which exposes Gandhi, how thoroughly he was opposed to the idea of conversion. Uh, and he wanted to propagate Varnashrama Dharma, and he wanted to be like a Varnashrami. And one of the talks with Gandhi of Bishop Pickett, Gandhi was like being strongly criticizing, like trying to be a brilliant scholar, and he was saying, Gandhi said to Bishop Pickett that all religions have some kind of, all religions are false, and only one religion, that is truth. And so Bishop Pickett, okay, so what mistake you find in the gods of all religions, like Buddha or Krishna or Rama or Jesus or whoever? So Gandhi said, all have sinned and everything is so. Bishop Pickett literally asked him directly that I am being a Christian, I need to know, because I need to take this criticism because a mass leader is criticizing my faith. So I would love to know the critic so that I could correct my faith and uh, and communicate it with my audience, with my followers, so with the people, with the members of the church. So Bishop Pickett asked him, "What sin Jesus commit? Can you please elaborate on this?" Gandhi was stunned, and Gandhi said, "I need to go. Can we talk about this later?" So, so this was uh, Bishop Pickett talking with Gandhi and Baba Sahib. So Baba Sahib was so pro-Christian, and that he insisted to be a member of the church and to be baptized in the church, and he was open to the idea of conversion. And on the other hand, Gandhi was anti-conversion. He said no, Varnashrama should remain, and no one should convert. And it's in the documents of collected words of Mahatma Gandhi. I don't want to bring out all 98 volumes of him. He already said to C.F. Andrews and all these Harijans, he called them Dalits as Harijans. He called like they should not convert, they should remain in Hindu fold, and who will serve us, and blah 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 blah. Anyways, so moving further, Bishop Vedanagayam Samuel Azaria and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. I'm to my audience who are listening to me. I'm saying, and I'm saying with this very responsibility, and being a responsible person with all huge responsibility. Bishop Azaria is like modern day Baba Sahib Ambedkar for Christianity in India. Why? Bishop Azaria was the first Indian uh, indigenous bishop who was from marginalized caste group, so was appointed in the churches of Anglican Church. And he, even before, when Baba Sahib was in process of writing Annihilation of Caste, Bishop Azaria was decasting people, and he was doing. He was in Andhra Pradesh. He was located in Andhra Pradesh, diocese of Dornakal. You can Google about Bishop Azaria. And to be honest, they both have a common enemy, and that common enemy's name is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And Gandhi called him openly the greatest enemy, or enemy, my enemy number one is Bishop Samuel Azhari, because he was educating people against the caste system, liberating people against the caste system, and he was making them sure that Jesus is the answer to annihilate caste. I'm talking about 1930s era. So what I'm trying, my point is, even before Baba Sahib came with the idea of conversion to get out of the Hindu fold, Christian missionaries have already been doing, they have been doing this work. they are doing this work and they will continue to do so. Because message of Jesus is love. Love your enemy, love one another. And so that is the message of love that Jesus has taught to all the Christians, to share his message of love, of humanity and equality and dignity to entire all the nations of the world. Bishop Azaria lived that teaching, and he was the pioneer of Christian ecumenism in India. Azaria had a complex relationship with Gandhi and called him enemy number one. Azaria, as a missionary, was working among the poor Dalit in the Ronakal area of Andhra Pradesh. So today, Andhra Pradesh uh, is one of the largest Christian population, and majority of them are Dalits. And this is all work of Bishop Azaria. And Gandhi unjustly criticized his work of converting people, but refused Azaria's invitation to come and see for himself. At the same time, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, the champion of liberation and opponent of Gandhi, embarrassed Gandhi and caste Hindus by deciding to quit Hinduism along with thousands of followers. Azaria had a personal interview with Baba Sahib Ambedkar in 1936, which deeply embarrassed Gandhi and disturbed him. And uh, as well as this meeting was so embarrassing for Gandhi because these two giants met and had conversation, and so that was a very hostile environment for him. Again, Baba Sahib and Azaria had amazing conversation. Baba Sahib literally, in this conversation, if you research on it, I'm not giving you entire research paper. Faith is so remarkable. No other theologian in Christianity has done such a brilliant research on Christianity. And Azaria embraced that critic. And he embraced that critic and he worked on it. And he literally changed the dynamics of evangelism of Christianity in society. And so basically he did that, empowered Azaria to rethink on who Jesus is. And Jesus is the hero of the oppressed, like that. So so that's the conversation, and that's the friendship of Bishop Azaria and Ambedkar. Mrs. Mildred Drescher and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Now this is the conversation, and this is the brilliant one of the friend and common friend. So many people are researching on it, like what is the bridge to unite Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Baba Sahib Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Okay, and so we are still searching on it. Caste struggle and struggle against racism should unite, and African American narrative and Dalit narrative, we should unite and we should fight together on the against the oppression. There is a book written by one African American author about caste, Isabel Wilkerson. So these changes are happening, but the bridge which unites Baba Sahib Ambedkar and Martin Luther King Jr., I'm throwing that light, Miss Mildred Drescher. And now, how Baba Sahib knows this person? That is the question. Baba Sahib in 1945 wrote a punishing analysis. And that punishing analysis was what Gandhi Congress has done, what Gandhi and Congress have done to the untouchables. And Gandhi Congress policies towards untouchability, and he nails it. Gandhi's and Congress parties, that then INC, Congress party, policies towards untouchability and impossibility to reform within Hinduism towards these issues, religion being precisely the ideological basis of exclusion. In his book, what Baba Sahib has written, and of course, he has argues about the term Harijan, and it was totalizing Hindu family. For them to leave Hinduism, would Gandhi be fractured, cement? And of course, this position was slightly given slightly indigenous given a subsequent, if reluctant agreement to partition. Ambedkar deconstructed these arguments of nationalism and loving our country and blah blah blah. And Baba Sahib literally clearly said with Gandhi, like, Mr. Gandhi, I have no homeland, no Dalit, no oppressed, no depressed class will be proud of this homeland. Now, because we are being banned to drink water, we are being banned to have communications with others. We are banned for so many things, and I cannot be proud of this nation because I have no nation, I have no motherland, I have no homeland. And so, in that context, Baba Sahib, when he writes what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchable, that book was very opposed. But he, with the help of his American Methodist missionary, Miss Mildred Drisher, a US editor, has published this in Methodist denomination. And with the help, basically in America, this book was launched because of Miss Mildred Drisher. Okay, Baba Sahib was in United States. Okay, so he was in District of Columbia. Columbia University has the symbol of knowledge statue there. So there is a possibility he must have known about African American struggle, right? We'll see. We'll look into it. So if he knows about African American struggle against racism, that means he knows about Martin Luther King Jr. And Miss Mildred Drisher was a common friend of Dr. King and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So there is no clue. Again, I have no evidence of but this needs to be researched properly. And I hope the future scholars would research it. Is there any talks between Miss Mildred Drisher and Baba Sahib Ambedkar about Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement in United States? So Miss Mildred Drisher helped Baba Sahib to publish what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchables in United States, and Methodist missionaries published that. Christian missionaries published that book. Why? Here's the answer. Because there was one friend of Baba Sahib Ambedkar and in London, when he was in London, and her name was Lady Fanny Fitzgerald. And Lady F, we call it Lady F. And of course, in Hidden Facts of Ambedkar, Nanak Chand Rattu also mentioned about this woman, that she wanted to meet him when he was in last days, because she was doctor by profession. And of course, Vaman Dada Godbole also documents about their friendship. So this is really an authentic material. And so Ambedkar's one of the best friends, Lady Fanny Fitzgerald. Of course, if you watch the movie by Jabbar Patel, you will find Baba Sahib goes to one African American church. You will find Lady Fanny Fitzgerald in London. They both are there. They both are having conversation in library and all. And I'm saying in the book, what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchable, if you read that book, page by page, please read the dedication page. I'm saying so. The dedication page, Baba Sahib writes, he literally clears it, the impact of Christianity on him, with a great thought. And what Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchable, this book is dedicated to Lady Fanny Fitzgerald. And Lady Fanny Fitzgerald, he writes that we used to read the Bible together, and we used to have conversation together. In my society, God is more important than man, than human. And he quotes from the passage of the Bible, which is Book of Ruth, chapter 1, verse 11 to 17. And that is one of the finest book. And Book of Ruth. Ruth was a character in the Bible, it's not a fictional character, it was a real woman who was a non-Israelite, who was from a different community, who marries an Israelite, unfortunately becomes a widow, but she becomes a blessing to entire nation and empowerment. Ruth is from agrarian community. She is seen working in the fields. She is from the landless labor community. And so in the book of Ruth, when Ruth gets widowed, and her mother-in-law also gets widowed in the days of famine. And so uh, she says to her mother-in-law, "Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." And this passage is quoted by Baba Sahib Ambedkar in the book What Congress and Gandhi have done to the untouchables, in the dedication page. You can read it, you can find it. So I don't need to elaborate more on it. All right. In the Constituent Assembly, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, in the presentation speech of the Constitution Year, which is already in the archives, in the writings, what he said, and he in 1949 in Constituent Assembly, Dr. Ambedkar mentions about a discussion of the Protestant of Episcopal Church of United States of America. They could pray for the nation, and this was the quote. Thus said Ambedkar in Constituent Assembly. Some years ago, the American Protestant Episcopal Church was occupied at its triennial convention in revising its liturgy. It was thought desirable to introduce among the short sentence prayers a prayer for the whole people, and an eminent New England divine proposed the words, "O Lord, bless our nation." Accepted one afternoon on the spur of the movement, the sentence was brought up next for reconsideration when so many objections were raised by the laity to the word nation as important to definite recognition of national unity, that it was dropped, and instead there adopted the words, "O Lord, bless this United States." Dr. Ambedkar quoted this about a story of the church. What means, he is quoting about the racism, issues of racism happening in the society in the United States, and how they are confronting it, that issue, how they are working on it. Dr. Ambedkar observed that there was so little solidarity in USA at that time, when this incident occurred, that people of America did not think that they were a nation. But if the people of the United States could not feel they were a nation, Dr. Ambedkar was amused. How difficult it is for Indians to think that they are a nation. That is the question Baba Sahib Ambedkar raised in the Constituent Assembly. And on the chair, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Baba Sahib, representing the draft in the Constituent Assembly, he quotes about the issue of the United States Church, Methodist Episcopal Church, and he quotes about the racism in society, about nationality, what is national and anti-national, and Baba Sahib clarifies it. Caste is anti-national in the fullest sense, and so a nation with caste cannot be a nation. We have to dismantle caste system, and Baba Sahib proves it. And whole speech of Constituent Assembly is there in his writings, in the government archives. You can Google it. All right. Baba Sahib Ambedkar had the inspirational hero, and his inspirational hero was Moses. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, we all know, he had three gurus: Buddha, Guru Kabir, and Mahatma Jyotiba Phule. He had three gurus, but Baba Sahib's inspiration was Moses. And I have to share this because in volume 17, part 3, page number 346, I'm giving the citation, volume 17, part 3, page 346. It's a document in Baba Sahib Ambedkar writings and speeches. He clearly mentions, because he had the interview with Jewish community, and Dr. Ambedkar and Jewish people, if you Google it, velivada.com has already also published it, Dr. Ambedkar and Jewish people. And so Baba Sahib says, as the Old Testament truly says, there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. Moses was not merely a great leader of the Jews, he is the leader whose birth any downtrodden community may pray for. Whatever interest others may felt in the story of Israel and leadership of women, they have been a source of perennial inspiration and hope. Prophet Moses is my hero. He literally clears it. I get inspiration to emancipate my people with the inspiration of Moses to set my people free out of captivity, the way Moses set the Jews out of the captivity, his people. So Baba Sahib's inspirational hero of emancipation was Moses. Baba Sahib's guru was Buddha, Kabir, and Mahatma Phule, but his hero, where he takes inspiration from to the idea of conversion, is the great prophet Moses. Prophet Moses is very well known, very well revered in a Jewish community. He is their prophetic figure, like Prophet Muhammad is for Muslim community. Prophet Moses is for Jewish community. Also, Prophet Moses is for Christians too. Prophet Moses is also revered in Christianity as a prophet, and so it's a Moses was in pre-Buddha period. This was not in post-Buddha period. Moses was in very far away, like history of Israelite. If you see, he was born and brought up in pre-Buddha period, and he emancipated his people even before Buddha, and even before any emancipator came in this world. Moses is the inspiration of many. Even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His last speech, he quotes, "I have seen the promised land. I have seen, no, mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord." And that's what equates Dr. King and Ambedkar, that both had Moses as their inspirational hero. And Baba Sahib clarifies it, that Moses took his people to the promised land. I am taking my people to the land of promise. Land of promise. Moses never entered the promised land. Moses left. His last breath was like he breath is last before entering the promised land in near the Jordan River, when they came out of the slavery of Egypt. Israelites came out to slavery. Then Joshua comes in, and he delivers them to the promised land. And Joshua, the meaning of Joshua means Lord saves, and meaning of Jesus means Lord saves. And so Baba Sahib Ambedkar, like Moses, has given us Neo-Buddhism as a Jordan River. We are still wildering, pondering, thinking, de-Brahmanizing the myth to enter into land of promise. I hope someday we become a casteless nation. Someday. A Prabuddha Bharat, enlightened India, which we call it. No, enlightened India doesn't mean Buddhist India. Enlightened India means the casteless nation. Begumpura, which Guru Ravidas dreamed of, which Mahatma Phule dreamed of, kingdom of Baliraja, Balistan. So we are the collection of dreams, and Baba Sahib was a man who dreamed, a man of dreams. So impact. So in the beginning, I quoted about Baba Sahib Ambedkar said in Solapur in Christian gathering that two great personalities, Jesus and Buddha, have impacted me. So what did he mean in 1938? He said that Jesus Christ had made great impact on his mind. This question arises. As a matter of fact, he never explained what that impact was. Keeping in view that in 1932, he had entered the Pune Pact with Gandhi, promising not to do anything that would harm the interest of the Hindus, the caste Hindus. He had distanced himself from Christians. Baba Sahib distanced himself from Christians. However, after his disagreements with Gandhi resurfaced in 1947, it can well be known that in years following 1932, Baba Sahib changed his thinking. If on the one hand he recovered his appreciation of Christianity, then on the other hand he disapproved some of its aspects. There is no evidence of any impact which he claims Baba Sahib has written something, but except that in passing, which is a line in his article, Baba Sahib wrote one article, Reformers and Their Fate of 1946, where he wrote, Buddha's time was divided between feeding the lamp of his own spiritual life by solitary meditation. Just as Jesus spent hours in lonely prayer, the mention of Jesus praying in seclusion for long hours, which is documented in Gospel of Mark chapter 6 verse 46 in the Bible. Baba Sahib quotes that about Buddha and Jesus similarities, and this indicates that Dr. Ambedkar was reading the Bible, the Gospels, because he's quoting Jesus from Mark chapter 6 verse 46. But we do not know or how long he was doing this. Obviously, the seclusion of Jesus in prayer struck him as resonating with the solitariness of Buddha in meditation. The reason for him to read the gospel was to acquaint himself with its style with the intent to recast the Buddhist scriptures for the neo-Buddhist. This he did, and his gospel. This he did completely, and he called the book the Buddha and his Gospel, which he renamed it the Buddha and his Dhamma. In the introduction of Buddha and his Dhamma, I quote Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar clearly writes, Buddha never had any gospel. Buddha had noble truths. But with the inspiration of Jesus Christ, I am writing Buddha's gospel, Buddha and his Dhamma. Dhamma is a Pali word which literally means good news in English. Good news means gospel. Yes. Bhadanta Ananda Kausalyan, sir, when he translated the title Buddha and his Dhamma as Buddha and his gospel, there was very much opposition to that by the conservative Buddhists. But he continued that, the Buddha and his gospel, that writing. And Bhadanta Ananda Kausalyan was one of the finest, like I have seen that person working and in Nagpur. And so one of the finest revered person in Buddhism after Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Of course, now he's not there, but of course, if he would have been alive, I would have literally called him and asked him what are the more readings on Bible. So Bhadanta Ananda Kausalyan documents Buddha and his gospel, not Buddha and his Dhamma, means he translated that into English, that people have confusion about the word Dhamma. So let it be the gospel, means like the good news of Buddha. But of course, my point is, Christianity continued to inspire Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, even after he decided to reinvent and embrace a new sect of Buddhism, the Navayana. Baba Sahib Ambedkar had this conversation, and it's well documented, with the Hinayana priest, with the Theravada priest, with the other priest, Tantrayana priest, Vajrayana priest, and all Buddhism when he was embracing. So people were asking him, which yana you want to choose? You want to pick Hinayan, Mahayan, Theravada, or which one? So Baba Sahib says, neither Hinayan, neither Mahayan, neither Theravada. So people asked him in funny way, like, can we call it as a Bhimyana or Navayana? So Baba Sahib literally said, I am rebuilding a Navayana. And 22 vows are literally not Buddha teachings. It is Ambedkar. It is Navayana. And because Buddha had noble truths, Ambedkar has 22 vows. So that's why Baba Sahib Ambedkar is Prabuddha. You know, Siddharth Gautam was Buddha, and Baba Sahib Ambedkar is Prabuddha. And so, to be honest, sorry if this sounds like a sweeping statement to you guys, the audience, but Buddha should be grateful to Baba Sahib Ambedkar, should be thankful to Baba Sahib Ambedkar that he saved his legacy. He reinvented him. And I'm using the word reinvention. Ambedkar has 2.0 Facebook page. They are using the word resurrection of Buddhism. Resurrection is a Christian term. And resurrection is that is the resurrection of Buddhism. But resurrection is a term. There is no idea of resurrection in Buddhism. There is a nirvana idea, teaching of Buddhism. But resurrection teaching is Christianity. And to quote Baba Sahib Ambedkar in the 22 vows, the 21st vow is, Baba Sahib clearly states, I firmly believe that from today I am being born again. Many writers have misinterpreted that vow as rebirth. So I want to clarify, Baba Sahib never said about rebirth. There is no rebirth he believed in, and he never believed in. Of course, the conservative Buddhist teaching is about rebirth, and there is no rebirth like thing because it's Brahmanic teaching. and there has been Brahmanical interference in Buddhism too. That's why they invented this terminology of rebirth, but there is no rebirth. There is new birth. Baba Sahib talks about new life, born again. And born again teaching is of Jesus. Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 1 to 21 in Bible. Jesus has a conversation with Nicodemus, one of the Jewish priests, who comes in conversation with him and says, and ask him, Rabbi or teacher, what do you mean by being born again? What do you mean by new birth? And Jesus explained him. So you can read it in the Bible. No, there is no. You won't become Christian by reading that Bible. It's you read it like a historian, and researcher. Gospel of John, chapter 3, verse 1 to 21. It's there about new birth. So Baba Sahib comes with the idea of new birth because of the impact of Christianity, I could say. So I am saying Christianity continued to Jesus Christ, continued to inspire Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar, my hero, even though he resurrected Buddhism. So again, the question will come, then why not Christianity? Why not Buddhism? So in my understanding, my Bhimrao Ambedkar was a Buddhist Christian. The Christian, more than a Christian, he did what a Christian should have been doing. A Christian missionary should do. He was doing that. Baba Sahib Ambedkar's criticism to Christian faith. Of course, I would love to talk about this. I would love to share about this. Baba Sahib critiqued the teaching of original sin of Christianity, the elite understanding of Christ of Christianity. He critiqued the glorification of poverty propagated by the elite priests in Christianity. He literally critiqued Christianity, Christians, because his view was that there is no political voice for Christians. He says it's good to convert people, but please educate your people to participate in politics too. He says, I have, like in 1938, he says, my people, we are like 21 MLAs in the parliament. We have voice. My people have voice. But Christians don't have voice in the parliament. And thoroughly. And of course, Christians need to rework on the doctrine of original sin. There is a sin, this is the fall of man, and like everyone is a sinner. And so this doesn't relate in a subaltern Libra Mass conference. Of course, Dalit theology has really embraced that, and Dalit theologians don't preach about guiltifying people, like, okay, you are a sinner, so repent and come. But Dalit theology comes up with the hope that there is a teaching of Brahmanism that you were born in as a low caste. That's why your condition is like this. So you are born sinner. That's why your condition is like this. But the theologians come up with a narrative that Jesus gives hope, and Jesus emancipates you from the slavery because he belongs to the subaltern agrarian community, and he's the most oppressed, comes with the most oppressed community. Jesus's birth, of course, I would love to talk about it. The criticism of the atheist, and many of my Buddhist friends, they come about talk about Virgin Mary, Jesus born from Virgin Mary, because that's not scientific and something. I would encourage you to read the text in the context. Look at Jesus's community and that history. Jesus's community is the segregated community. They are living under slavery of a Roman rule, and they are in the slavery. They are being oppressed. They are being brutalized, marginalized, and they are being looted. So every evening, every week, or any time in the evening, Roman soldiers would come and rape their women, and they would do horrible crimes against them. That is Jesus's community, and they would loot them. They would torture them, and that's why her name is Mary. Jesus' mother's name is Mary. You know what do you mean by Mary? Mary, the word Mary comes from Hebrew word which means Miriam. Miriam means pain, pain, pira, pain. And why? And that's why there are many Marys in the Bible. So you get confused. Why so many Marys? So why so many Marys? Uh, because in the Jewish community, in the Roman rule, what would happen is that Roman soldiers would come and rape their teenager girls. So that's why when the girl used to be born in Jewish community at that time, they would name her Mary. And when the girl would go in her teenage, their father would sit with her and have a serious conversation with her and would say, "My dear daughter, I am sorry. I named you Mary. The reason behind is because I am helpless. I don't know, there is no guarantee when these oppressor soldiers will come, loot us, and rape you. And I cannot save you because I am helpless." So that's why the reason behind Mary. Of course, nothing like this happened with Mother Mary. Nothing like this happened with Mother Mary. She was pregnant, and her fiance also doubt her. But again, her fiance gets confirmation that it's from the Lord. Of course, Lord God and this belief is really hindering for you guys. I'm not making you Christian. I'm telling you again, you don't need to become Christian. Don't convert to Christianity, please. I'm not propagating Christendom here. And so, but the facts need to be observed. This conversation need to happen. And Baba Sahib Ambedkar criticized Christian faith, and one reason for this to be reckoned that in the fact Christianity is the oldest minority in India with a continuous history. It is therefore the right of every Indian to be informed about this faith. That's why I'm informing, because I am also from India, and Christianity is a 2,000-year-old religion in India, one of the indigenous faith, which has influenced various people, various Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Shahu Maharaj, Kingdom of Via. If you go dig to history from AD 52, Christians were influencing the society. Then it influenced Nawab Hyder Ali Khan Bahadur, Tipu Sultan, and you just talk about historic figure. You will find any Christian missionary influencing the society. Sati was banned because of the influence of Christian missionaries. People talk about Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Raja Ram Mohan Roy is not a hero of Sati, against who banned Sati. It was William Carey, and William Carey banned Sati. Efforts of William Carey led Lord William Bentinck to ban Sati, and there are things which Christian missionaries use a lot of reform. Idea of education, idea of healthcare, idea of emancipating the poor and downtrodden and educating with reason. This idea was brought in India by the Christian missionaries. Buddhist monks were butchered by Pushyamitra Shunga and all, and you know that story. They all scattered in different places in the continent. Buddhism was completely vanished from India. It's thanks to Baba Sahib who resurrected Buddhism. Otherwise, no one knew before 1950 there is something like Buddhism, to be honest. Because of Baba Sahib, we are talking about Buddhism. Otherwise, if Baba Sahib would have embraced Christianity, we would have talked about Christianity. If Baba Sahib would have embraced Islam, we would have talked about Islam. If Baba Sahib would have embraced Sikhism, we would have talked about Sikhism today. But Baba Sahib was a staunch Christian of Christians, more Christian than Christians. And that's why I admire my hero, Baba Sahib. And of course, 3 generations we have worked with at Baba Sahib, with Baba, and will continue to do so. We'll carry forward the karma of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Conclusion. Baba Sahib, and again I'm trying to say, in conclusion, I'm saying he called himself Republican. He formed Republican Party of India. You all know about it. Idea of Republican is also not a Buddhist ideology. I'm sorry if people will differ from me. That's okay. But idea of Republican comes from Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a president of the United States. What happened is there was a boom in the entire world that slavery is banned and Emancipation Proclamation. Abraham Lincoln wrote Emancipation Proclamation, and with that there was a boom that slave trade is banned in India, and sorry, in United States, not in India, in United States. And so there was a boom. So it inspired Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, then it inspired Baba Sahib Ambedkar too. So Emancipation Proclamation comes from the idea of the Bible. Abraham Lincoln firmly stood with the emancipation. People opposed him. Conservatives opposed him at that time, that no, this is slave trade should not be banned. But Abraham Lincoln said, Bible does not approve this. With the inspiration of Bible, he wrote Emancipation Proclamation. And so Emancipation Proclamation inspired Baba Sahib Ambedkar. With the idea of Emancipation Proclamation, he drafts the preamble of the Constitution of India. He wears a blue coat and tie, inspired by the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln. He says he's Republican, not today's Republicans. At the time of Abraham Lincoln, Republicans were progressive, Democrats were conservatives. And times change, radical shifts happen. Democrats became progressive, Republicans now became conservatives. So this radical shift has happened. But anyways, that's American politics. But what I'm saying, he says he's a Republican. With the inspiration of Emancipation Proclamation, he writes the preamble of the Constitution, and he says he's the brother of Christians. And Christians and other minorities still continue to ignore Baba Sahib Ambedkar and continued with that outdated half-naked beggar Gandhi, and which Churchill called that half-naked hero who has no culture, who is outdated, who is a staunch racist and a staunch casteist in behavior. And Christians have done this mistake. The Gandhi myth was planted by Christians, white clergies in South Africa. They started propagating this myth. White clergy Bishop Duke, he wrote this Gandhi myth. And I have research on Gandhi. So my doctorate is in Gandhi and Phule. So I have thoroughly revised everything, all 92 volumes. So I know what Gandhi did and how the Gandhi myth was planted. And it is done by Christian missionaries, white Christian missionaries, white conservative clergy missionaries. And he, in South Africa, and then slowly he was propagated. And then even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was given a wrong information about Gandhi. And so Dr. King also came to India. He's talking about untouchability and things. But there is a possibility, that struggle against caste and race should unite. But again, Baba Sahib says he's a brother of Christian. He's more Christian than the Christians, in my opinion. And especially Christian missions need to work out now and need to disown Gandhi and embrace Ambedkar. I think if that is too much for Christian brothers, and I'm really very sorry, but to disappoint you in your sentiments, but that's the real story. And Gandhi is a fake hero, and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. And if you want to replace a Mahatma, then Mahatma Jyotiba Phule is the real Mahatma of India. Indeed, Baba Sahib has opened the ways of conversion. 15th October, of course, Dhamma Diksha. This Dhamma Diksha ceremony was not only on 14th October 1956, 15th October 1950, which Mangesh Bhai already mentioned in the beginning, under the leadership of Barrister Rajabhau Khobragade. This second Dhamma Diksha happened in Chandrapur district in Maharashtra. And this Dhamma Diksha, these conversions were happening after 14, 15. This was continuing process. This did not stop in 2 days or 3 days. This was continuing, and many people embraced Buddhism under the leadership of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Barrister Rajabhau Khobragade, Vaman Dada Godbole, and all these heroes like Dada Sahib Gaikwad and all these people. But of course, my point is Baba Sahib Ambedkar has already given us the mandate that conversion is the way to emancipation. Get out of the Hindu fold. Mass conversion needs to happen, needs to be embraced. In today's context, My appeal to my Buddhist Ambedkarite brothers and sisters, and Christians and Muslims, and all those who are united with and love Baba Sahib. We are in different religions. Okay, so we cannot demand someone to become Christian or Buddhist, or stop demanding, like be a Buddhist. Right now, like many pseudo people, like they are claiming, they're asking people to be Ambedkarite, you need to be a Buddhist. That's so false. Don't do that. You know, if someone is out of Hindu fold, embrace it. Someone is getting out of Hindu fold, embrace it. If someone is embracing Buddhism, I don't have any problem. You know, idea of conversion needs to happen. If someone is embracing Christianity, don't oppose it. Encourage them. Fine. Getting out of the Hindu fold is the first step for the emancipation. Mukti kon pathe, that is the what way to what path to salvation. One of my favorite speech of Baba Sahib Ambedkar. He clears it. It's a long speech given at Nashik in 1930s, and Baba Sahib clearly says why conversion. He clears it. So conversion needs to happen. Conversion, not just material gain. Baba Sahib also cleared it. My conversion is out of spiritual motivation. I'm not embracing it because of material gains, or someone has bribed me or something. The second norm about against Christianity now, the RSS has promoted that the Christians are bribing people to become Christians. That is a false propaganda. Christian missionaries, you know how much they earn? The poor pastors, the poor priests in the villages, they can't even afford to pay their rent, house rent. And people are running a propaganda that they bribe people, they bribe the poor people to. Another propaganda is rice bag. I would love to share about it. Rice bag, the rice bag story, the troller army trolls rice bag to Christians. Rice bag is the awesome story. In the pandemic, when in the past, at the times of Savitribai Phule and Baba and at the times of Savitribai Phule, when Savitribai Phule died of pandemic, serving the plague patients, at such times, Dalits and tribals were starving, and Brahmanical forces were looting them rather than serving them. It was Christian missionaries who came with the compassionate heart and gave them rice bag. They lived the teaching of Jesus. When people came to Jesus Christ and said, I am hungry, Jesus Christ did not give them pravachans, bhashans. Jesus Christ said, I feed you. He fed them. So good news for the hungry is bread. Good news for the oppressed is emancipation. Good news for those who have faced injustice is justice. Jesus was so clear in that. And so good news for hungry was bread at that time. Christian missionaries served them, fed them. They loved the compassionate heart of Christian missionaries, and that's why they loved Jesus Christ, and that's why they became Christians. So please stop believing in this false propaganda that Christians are bribing, this rice bag teasing, and this thing. This is not happening. This needs to go. Again, idea of conversion is Ambedkar's legacy, Baba Sahib Ambedkar's legacy. Getting out of the Hindu fold and converting to other religion. That's the pathway. Of course, caste exists in every religion. Caste is the problem. And every religion is facing. Christianity doesn't propagate the teachings of Christianity, Bible does not propagate the system of caste, neither racism. But Christendom has done damage and propagated racism. And Christianity, of course, caste entered Christianity. But again, Dalit Christians exist. Dalit Christians are still fighting. There is I remember the news in 1950s after the Constitution was drafted, Dalit Christians filed a PIL to give them reservation, because apart from religious binaries, we still are under the captivity, and we need a reservation and to empower ourselves. We need representation. So that is the thing. So again, we need to de-Brahmanize our own faith, our own narratives, and we need to come to some common ground. How we are divided in different faiths, but we belong to one hero. Our hero is Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So I'm not saying you embrace Christianity. You are already out of Hindu fold. Praise to be Jesus. Praise to Jesus. So that's great. Emancipation needs to be done. And my appeal to all my Ambedkarite Buddhist brethren, Christian brethren, Muslim brethren, apart from religious boundaries, can we come to a common ground and just talk and share? And how can we fight together to annihilate the evil caste system? No, that's the conclusion. So that will be the greatest honor to Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Thank you so much for listening to me. Jai Bhim, and Jai Bhim.
Brother Obed, that was a wonderful presentation indeed, because, as you said, that there are so many aspects of Baba Sahib Ambedkar which needs to be explored, understood. And you have rightly said that, it's like the oceanic personality that we need to really engage with. And I really liked your presentation, because I think understanding is the first step towards love. And the more and more people understand each other, and as you said, that we are brothers and sisters in the same movement, where we are striving for the same goal, and the same emancipation of our people. And I think that puts your presentation in the context of how that effort should be made to understand each other within the communities, because there are, of course, among us, the Muslims, the Christians, the Buddhists, and the Hindus. All of them are there, and we need to find this kind of a platform to open up with the dialogues, understand each other. Because what strike me from your presentation is, you were trying to bring this whole history of Christianity towards one concentrated point, that is how we can help our people, our generations coming in the future. And I think that is the point, that is the key takeaway, that there are so many resources available, in the Christianity, so many resources available, and so much of misunderstanding there, in the Buddhist world, so much is, resource available, but so much misunderstanding everywhere like that. So I think the point of these dialogues is to really talk to each other, learn from each other, understand each other. And yes, brother.
Yeah, I need to add one more. Sorry, I forgot, but I just remember. So Baba Sahib Ambedkar, the impact of Christianity, I forgot to share this, but Baba Sahib Ambedkar, when he talked about how to spread Buddhism in India, to Bharatiya Bauddha Mahasabha, and he founded Bharatiya Bauddha Mahasabha and that, he instructed the monks. And it's in his writings. I don't remember the volume, but it's in the writing. He instructed the monks, look at Christians.
Yes.
Learn from them.
Yes.
How they go door to door with the message of Jesus.
Yes, very definitely.
You should be like them. Go door to door with the message of Buddha.
Yes. I think that's fascinating. I remember that point very much. And how the Christianity was spread when the priestly class started living like a common man, wearing like that. I think so much is to be learned and we have to make efforts to continuously learn, continuously talk, continuously understand our brothers and sisters from wherever they are. And I think in a way you really brought this, I would say, not so much known dimension of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, because he lived in England, he lived in America, and as you said that in 1913 they say that the Harlem Renaissance was taking place in New York, and Columbia University is just perched on the on Harlem, and there is a beautiful church that I have seen in front of the Columbia University. So I think he was very much exposed to the Christian text, the Christianity, and so on and so forth. And we have to really figure out how to things this thing. For me as a Buddhist follower of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, I think one of the ideas of Buddhist seminary was to really have this kind of dialogues and discussion, compare, understand, learn. So I see this process as this continuous dialogue of knowing, what people have no idea what it is. And because we don't know what it is, there is a lot of fear and a lot of not understanding, and that not understanding breeds, we know, hatred and whatnot. So I think, brother, thank you so much for this wonderful time. I know you had a difficult time to start off with your computer.
Yeah.
You could finally manage, and I reckon that it must be very late for you there, but wonderful to hear from you. And we'll invite you in the future to have more dialogues like this, and we will keep on interacting, brother.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For having me.
Thank you.
Jai Bhim. Jai Bhim.
Thank you.